Under the Bodhi tree in Jetavana, the Buddha gazed at the disciples. His eyes serene and compassionate. The morning sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting patterns of light and shadow on the earth below. A soft breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. Blending with the sounds of rustling foliage, the Buddha spoke. Long ago in Rajagaya, there lived a man named Jivaka, whose heart burned with deep resentment and anger. His neighbor, Sita, owned a piece of land that Jivaka believed rightfully belonged to him. Their disputes grew fierce, spreading discord across the village and dividing families and friends. Anger consumed Jivaka, creating an inner fire that stole peace from his heart and chaos from his days. One day, as Jivaka worked in his field, I approached him and greeted him warmly, breaking his spiraling thoughts. "You are not alone," he said, "in your struggle against the noise that consumes the soul. Sit with me." I settled onto the soft grass, the earth cool beneath me, as the Buddha gestured to the world around us. "Tell me," he said, "what do you hear in the silence of this place?" I closed my eyes, straining to perceive the quiet, but the tumult within me drowned out the stillness outside. "I hear nothing, Master," I admitted, shame coloring my words. "Only the echoes of my restless thoughts, louder than any sound." He nodded, the faintest smile gracing his lips, as though my struggle was a familiar story to him. "The mind," he said, "is like a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never content to rest." Though his rage flickered, he did not respond right away. He could not let go so easily. That evening, I invited Jivaka to meditate with me under a sacred grove near the village outskirts. He hesitated before accepting, for anger still ruled his mind. Sitting near the tree, I guided him through the practice of Metta, the meditation of loving kindness. I said to him, "Close your eyes and visualize your neighbor as a man just like you." "But how, Master?" I asked, yearning for guidance, the path to tranquility obscured by my own confusion. He closed his eyes briefly, as though gathering the wisdom of countless lifetimes before imparting it to me. Over time, as his breath deepened and his heart softened, he began to see Sita differently, not as an enemy, but as a fellow human. Rays of light appeared in Jivaka's mind, illuminating the darkness that hatred had created. "Feel the breath," he instructed, "how it enters and leaves. A rhythm unbroken and eternal. Let it guide your focus." I obeyed, my attention narrowing to the gentle rise and fall of my chest. The noise within me momentarily quieted. "Thoughts will come," the Buddha said, his voice steady, as clouds drift across the sky. Their conversation was tentative at first, yet sincere, sowing seeds of mutual understanding. In time, the village saw Jivaka and Sita walk together in harmony. Their feud dissolved, their land dispute resolved, their story spread among villagers, inspiring others to try the practice of Metta for themselves, healing broken relationships and mending severed bonds. Jivaka learned that forgiveness is an act of freedom, not for others, but for oneself. The Buddha concluded his teaching, looking at his disciples. Through loving kindness, Jivaka unlocked the power of compassion, transforming himself and his world. Learn from his journey. The disciples sat in silence, their hearts heavy yet lifted by the wisdom imparted to them. The grove rustled with the breeze, resonating with the story's echoes. The Buddha rose gracefully, his robes flowing like rivers of light, and moved toward another gathering awaiting his wisdom. The disciples followed him, their minds turning inward, reflecting on the lessons shared in the practice of Metta meditation. Another day, the sun cast a warm golden light over the grove of Jetavana, where the Buddha sat quietly. His disciples gathered in a semicircle, their eager faces reflecting a thirst for understanding and spiritual growth. The gentle rustling of leaves provided a soothing background melody as the Buddha began his discourse. the Buddha said. Many years ago in the town of Sravasti, there lived a widow named Kamala. Burdened by immense sorrow, she had lost her only son to illness, and her grief consumed her like a dark storm cloud. Kamala withdrew from her neighbors, isolating herself near the river, weeping endlessly for her beloved child. I journeyed to Sravasti and found Kamala sitting alone, her reflection shimmering on the river's surface. Her eyes were swollen and hollow, her spirit weighed down by an unbearable sadness. "Thank you, Master," I said, bowing deeply, my heart lighter than it had been in many moons. The Buddha smiled, his presence a testament to the peace he described, a beacon for those lost in the storm. As I rose to leave, his final words lingered in the air like a benediction, a promise of what lay ahead. "Remember," he said, "peace is not found, but made, in each breath, each moment, each choice to let go." A disciple near the edge of the group asked cautiously, "What if the distortion persists, and we cannot see the truth within ourselves?" Buddha addressed him directly, his tone gentle. "Distortion lingers only when we resist seeing ourselves with compassion and without attachment," he said. And so, the journey began, not toward a distant horizon, but inward, to the stillness that had always been there. Another day, another dawn bathed the city of Sravasti in golden light, where the Buddha sat amidst his disciples. The garden surrounding them whispered with life, its trees swaying gently, casting dappled shadows across the gathering. I arrived at the garden, carrying an object I thought might intrigue the Buddha and his followers. The object was a polished bronze mirror, its surface reflecting the world with remarkable clarity, every detail captured in its glow. The disciples gathered around as I displayed the mirror, their curiosity evident in their animated whispers and wide eyes. "Buddha," I said, bowing deeply, "this mirror reveals the world as it is, capturing its beauty and imperfections." The Buddha accepted the mirror, gazing at it briefly before placing it beside him, his expression serene as always. In the distance, the sound of the river carried softly to their ears, as if echoing the flow of thoughts calmed by wisdom. Buddha stood, his hands coming together in a gesture of compassion, signaling the end of the teaching for now. "What do you see in this mirror?" he asked. I hesitated, glancing at the gleaming surface, unsure of how to answer his simple yet profound inquiry. In the days that followed, Kamala began visiting her neighbors, offering help to those in need. Sharing her newfound compassion, she cooked meals for the hungry, cared for the sick, and comforted those who mourned, becoming a beacon of loving kindness in Sravasti. Buddha remained under the Bodhi tree, his presence a reminder of the wisdom that sought to guide, not command. The story of Sunanda lingered in their thoughts, an episode illuminating their struggles. The Buddha nodded, his approval subtle but reassuring, as though my admission opened a door to greater understanding. "The tools we hold," he said, "are like this mirror, showing us fragments but concealing the wholeness beneath." The disciples listened intently, their expressions mirroring my own, a mixture of curiosity and longing for clarity. "But Master," one disciple interjected, "are not the reflections valuable? Even if incomplete, they guide us, reveal much of what surrounds us." Buddha sat poised under the Bodhi tree, his presence grounding them as firmly as roots anchor the earth. Maha Kassapa addressed the Buddha, his voice steady but inquisitive. The disciples closed their eyes, their hearts resonating with the story's profound truth, their minds visualizing the river of Metta flowing outward. The Buddha sat in stillness, his presence a calming anchor amid the sea of contemplation. Another day, the grove of Jetavana was bathed in the soft hues of twilight, and the Buddha sat in silence. Disciples gathered, their robes rustling softly, their minds prepared to receive the wisdom of the Enlightened One. The evening breeze carried with it the scent of jasmine, Mingling with the distant chirping of crickets, the Buddha spoke. Long ago in the forests of Vaishali, there lived a hunter named Rathaka. Skilled and feared for his precision, Rathaka depended on the forest for his livelihood. But his actions hardened his heart, distancing him from empathy and compassion. His hands were strong, yet his spirit was restless, burdened by the cycle of taking life. The disciples exchanged glances, their expressions revealing both determination and trepidation. The path described both inviting and daunting. Observing the mirror once more, the Buddha gestured for us to reflect upon its meaning, its lessons, and its limitations. The mirror, he said, offers no answers, only images. The answers lie within, in the silence beyond thought. An elder watched her, seated by the riverbank. Buddha said. The elder, observing her burden, spoke kindly. Child, why do you carry this stone wherever you go? Buddha's voice carried the elder's warmth, its compassionate tone bringing life to the interaction. The disciples followed his example, their breaths steady, the practice binding us together in shared purpose and revelation. Time seemed to dissolve, the boundaries between self and world blurred. A glimpse of unity glimpsed. Opening my eyes, I felt the weight of the mirror as if for the first time. Its allure diminished in light of truth. Master, I said, bowing deeply, the mirror feels heavier now, its reflection less significant compared to what lies within. The Buddha smiled, his approval subtle yet profound. The recognition of a milestone reached. The world, he said, addressing us all, is filled with mirrors, distractions that reflect only fragments, never wholeness. Seek beyond them. His words settled upon us, their resonance carrying a promise, a map to liberation from the illusions that bind us. Thank you, Master, I said, echoing the gratitude reflected in the expressions of the disciples surrounding him. The Buddha rose. The bronze mirror left behind, now only a symbol, its role fulfilled in the lesson imparted. Remember, he said, his voice a beacon amidst the noise of existence. Truth is not seen, but known. In silence, he walked into the garden, his steps light, the teachings left behind to ripple through our souls. I left the gathering, the world outside seeming both unchanged and transformed, the mirror's gleam less captivating. The Buddha's words echoed within me, not as commands but as whispers, guiding each breath, each thought, each choice. Another day began, but its meaning transcended the rhythm of time. The journey inward unfolding anew. Another day, another traveler sought the Buddha's wisdom. A prince named Siddhartha, adorned in silks and radiating regal authority. He guided travelers through the wilderness, teaching them the interconnectedness of all beings and the importance of compassion. His stories inspired villagers, who began to revere the forest not as a resource but as a living sanctuary. Buddha, Siddhartha began, bowing reluctantly, as if shackled by pride and desperation. My wealth and power have become a prison. The Buddha regarded him with calm, a deep stillness in his gaze that seemed to reflect eternity. Speak your burden, the Buddha invited, his voice gentle yet resonant, as if the very earth paused to listen. I possess all a man could desire, the prince continued, his voice faltering, yet I feel trapped, unable to find peace. The Buddha observed him without judgment, allowing silence to fill the space between words, a silence that carried weight. Siddhartha, the Buddha said, a golden cage is still a cage, binding as surely as one of iron. Disciples nodded slowly, their hearts aligning with Buddha's teachings like stars following celestial patterns. A disciple, seated near Ananda, voiced his thoughts with cautious conviction. The Buddha rose, his robes flowing gently, and began walking toward his resting place, his footsteps quiet yet purposeful. The disciples followed him, their hearts heavy with the profound lessons learned. their spirits yearning to practice metta in their own lives. Lessons remain, unchained by the sorrow of attachment. Each burden teaches before flowing away like the river's ceaseless current, Buddha explained. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.